In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a face mask. These are pleated, so it's easy to contour to your face. They have filter pockets for extra protection and also a nose wire so that it connects and creates a better seal around your face, as well as little inserts for elastic so you can change out the style of however you want to add on your elastic or any type of string. I also want to mention that I made this tutorial based off of a couple videos, so I want to give credit to those people, and I'll put that in the description so you can check out their videos. But I basically adapted those videos to make this mask perfect for my own needs, and also I think this is a really great mask. It offers protection, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's get started. So starting off with the main piece of fabric, this one is the one that's going to be on the outside of your mask, the visible portion. This one is 19 by 24 centimeters. I'll leave the link to the video where I use the measurements down below. Then you're also going to need two smaller pieces. These are 13 by 18 centimeters. Then with the two smaller pieces, this is going to be the filter pocket, and I'm just going to fold the bottom lengthwise about 1.5 millimeters, and then I'm going to iron that down so the fold stays into the fabric. Then I'm going to position my two inner pieces along with my larger main fabric piece, having the design sides facing each other, and then I'm going to sew across after I've placed my filter pieces kind of in the middle of the fabric. And then make sure that the folded edges of the smaller pieces are in the middle of your main piece of fabric, so in this case the polka dot one. And then we're going to sew the top edge and then also the bottom. And then after that we're going to take the smaller inner filter pieces, the small pieces, and then we're just going to sew that fold down just so it looks cleaner and it won't fray. So this is what it will look like when you're done sewing the small pieces to the main piece of fabric, and then also sewing the inner smaller pieces of fabric down on the fold to make sure that it is secure, doesn't fray, and it's a nice filter pocket. So this is what it should look like after you're done sewing all of it. So now I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to fold that smaller piece as well as the tiny edge of the main piece of fabric down. And I'm going to iron the top piece where it's folded up there, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom, and I'm going to iron it down so that it stays secure and it's easier to work with. For the nose wire portion, I'm just going to use a pipe cleaner. I figured that one piece of pipe cleaner can be easily folded into 3 pieces so that it would fit around the nose area pretty well. You can also use like grocery produce bag ties if you want, or any type of metal wire, but pipe cleaners work pretty well with this. And then for each of the raw edges of the pipe cleaner, I just folded it down so it won't poke through the fabric or poke the person wearing the mask. And then on the top edge of my fabric, on the inside, I am going to measure the pipe cleaner against it, kind of in the middle, and then I'm going to sew a little tiny pouch for it. So first I'm going to sew it maybe like 4 or 5 seams down my fabric, and then I'm going to go horizontally as well. So this is the 4 or 5 seams, and then I'm going to go across so that I make a little tiny pouch for the pipe cleaner to fit in. So this is what it should look like when it is done. I made this one a little bit smaller so I couldn't fit my pipe cleaner through. Instead I had to stick it in the main piece of fabric underneath that black fold, as you can see, which makes the pipe cleaner nose wire on the outside of the mask instead of closer in. And personally I prefer it closer in, so I would make the little pouch that we made, the little sleeve, a little bit bigger so that you can stick it in the filter fabric instead of the main piece. This is what it looks like when the sleeve is made a little bit bigger as opposed to the one I just showed you. This one I was able to, so the one on top was the one I was able to put the pipe cleaner on the inside fabric instead of the outside. And as you can tell, it's a little bit better because with the nose wire on the inside, it contours to your face better. And then that outside piece of fabric that kind of lingers on top, that tiny edge that's still there, is extra fabric that can be used to cover slightly more of your nose. Anyways, after that's done, I'm going to make the pleats. I found this video on YouTube that was really helpful, so I'm going to link it down below for you guys so you can see how I did it. But essentially, you have to put your mask face side down, so design side down. Then we're going to fold the top edge about 1/3 of the way and the bottom edge about 2/3 of the way, leaving a tiny gap in the middle. So this is what it looks like from an aerial shot. The top part of the fabric is folded about 1/3, leaving a tiny gap, and the bottom is folded about 2/3. Don't worry if it's not perfect, it'll still work out pretty well. Then you iron that down, and then I'm going to fold that entire thing in half, and then I'm going to iron that. So once that's done, I'm going to unravel my folded fabric, and as you can see on the inside, you could see the lines where I folded it and ironed it down, and then I'm going to flip it over, and you see where all of the lines were made initially where it was folded. I'm just going to pinch each one where it naturally folds, and I'm going to pull it down slightly to make the pleat. It's a lot easier to see what I'm doing in the video than for me to explain it, but that's essentially what I did. Just pinch and pull it down until it's pleated. Make sure that your pleats are pretty straight as well, as it makes the mask look a lot better. And this is the part where it's pretty easy to control how much is pleated and how straight they are, especially since you iron it, so I highly recommend that. Then after that's done, we're going to flip our fabric over again. Make sure your filter pocket is straight. As you can see, mine isn't here. And then I'm going to take the side of the main piece of fabric and I'm going to fold it down once up until the edge of the inner fabric, and I'm going to fold it one more time so that all of the raw edges of the fabric are tucked inside, and then I'm going to sew across and make sure to leave about maybe a millimeter to 1.5 millimeters open so that you can either stick an elastic or sew it in if you want. So in this case, I probably left about a millimeter on each side. So I made a little tiny pocket on each side. So I repeated it here, and let me show you later on what I did to put in the elastic. So this is what it looks like after you have sewed the sides down. And as you can see, there's a filter pocket in the middle, so you can stick in a coffee filter or any type of extra protection you want to add to your mask. And then this is what it looks like when they're done. And then I'll show you in a little bit how you can put in the elastic. So now's the time to put in your elastic. This is the last step. As I mentioned before, leave about a millimeter to 1.5 millimeters on the edge so that you have a tiny little hole there so you can stick in your elastic. One way is to take a not a clothespin, a safety pin, attach it to the end of your elastic and loop it through the hole on the side. But in this case, I'm going to save some elastic, and so I'm just going to stick my elastic in slightly, maybe about a millimeter, and I'm just going to sew across so that it stays. This is what it looks like after it's sewed. By the way, this piece of elastic was about 7.5 inches long, and as you can see, it's pretty sturdy. And I'm going to do the other side on the bottom, and then as well as the other side of the mask, so that you have the little ear loops to attach behind your ears. And that's how I made the masks. They're pretty easy. Once you get the hang of how things work, you can easily whip these out really quickly And here I'm going to show you a couple examples of what I did before I came up with this final design. I basically incorporated a bunch of different tutorials together, but this is one that I found that works really well. So this is one that I had tested previously. Obviously, as you can see, I had to sew it twice here, but since then I've gotten a lot better and instead just put a single seam down here so it doesn't look as messy. Then also this one is one where I looped the elastic through here, which might be a little bit more secure, but my sewing machine didn't work too well sewing elastic and ended up doing that. So I recommend either tying the end or sewing it right here like I mentioned, so that way it's more clean and this part doesn't pop out, because I don't even think this is that sturdy. It looks like it's already coming out. But anyways, so here is the pipe cleaner. You can adjust it to the shape of your nose. And then I did pleats. This one only has 2 because this is supposed to be the 3rd one right here, but I made it too small, so it ended up like that. But overall, it still works, looks really well, but the tutorial that I'm going to show you looks a lot better and definitely works a lot better than this first one that I made, even though this one is really cute. But this one's mine, and the other ones I made are for other people. This is the second one I made. It's a Lion King one. You can tell it looks better, except the pleats aren't as straight, but like I mentioned, single seam, so it looks a lot cleaner like this. This one doesn't have elastic in it yet, but I like the way this design looks. And then there's a little pipe cleaner like the other one so that it can adjust to fit your nose better. Then this one also has a pocket, just like all the other masks that I have made, and the one I showed you has a filter pocket, so you can easily put in a coffee filter or something, so it adds an extra layer of protection. And it has a little hole right here, so you can put in your elastic. You can either loop it through or you can sew it here and here like I showed in the video. Obviously looping elastic through here is a lot easier. All you have to do is connect the end of the elastic to a safety pin, and then you just loop it through here and then loop it like that, and then you can either tie the end or sew it like I mentioned before. Overall, this looks really cute. I think the patterned ones are my favorite, but I have this one and also this one that I made.